I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Translating Research into Practice, and I'm happy to welcome you all here today for this information session about the Charles Bantz Community Fellow and Scholar programs. So we're going to take you through some information to share with you a bit of the history and then the nuts and bolts about each of these awards and the process. And we have some of our current and past awardees with us, and they'll be able to share their information, and we hope that will be helpful to you. And you'll get lots of resources out of today, and we welcome you even after today to reach out to any of us so that you are fully informed and clear about what the opportunities are for this award. So I will share my screen so we can get to the information that's here. And the first thing that we'll do is welcome none other than Charles R Bantz, our former chancellor for IUPUI campus, to kick us off and just share some background about how this all started and why this is so important to him. And then we'll dive into the meat. So good morning, Dr. Bantz, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate you getting it started. And Steve, as you will discover, is the engine of the operation. And has been from the beginning of the Center for TRIP, which was founded by Sandra Petronio, whom many of you know is my wife, and she led it for a number of years, and I have been working on it since I stepped down in 2015, and that's relevant because that's where 2015 is where this idea was created to have a community fellowship. And the basic idea that stimulated this was I was asked what people could do to celebrate the work that had been done in 12 years as a chancellor. And I said, I thought one of the greatest things that we've been able to do is to continue to grow the commitment of the campus and the faculty and the staff and the students to the communities of which we're a part. And I believe that finding a way to allow a faculty member to devote attention for a full year beyond what they could do, given their incredible different obligations and opportunities we all have as faculty members, that was the idea. And as a result, we crafted the fellowship, and that fellowship is designed to allow an individual to truly invest their time and their effort and have a budget of $40,000 and an opportunity to get with near certainty a release funding through the Office of OVCR, the Vice Chancellor for Research, who's been very supportive of these efforts. And the reason I'm telling it in such detail here is because these are each key pieces of what I hoped this would do, which is that it would bring our colleagues together and get the ability to focus on a community engaged problem that utilizes students, faculty, staff, and community partners, and for the fellowship in a really deep long-term effort. We were fortunate to get some terrific applications the first year, and we had one of those really wonderful meetings where you get to look at all these ideas of what to do. There was a clear sense that proposal that was joint, which we hadn't anticipated, from Paul Mullins and from Sue Hyatt, to identify what it is called Invisible Indianapolis, the Indianapolis that has been erased by freeways and other aspects, including, frankly, the campus. Neighborhood was erased in that process of 50 plus years now. But that was the idea, and it was very intriguing. And you had a meeting where we were sitting there going along, and someone speaks up and says, there's this really interesting proposal from this much newer career scholar who actually hasn't had experience in doing this community engaged work, but has a great idea. And we said, yes, but, and thank heavens the conversation went in a direction with Simon Atkinson, the then Vice Chancellor for Research, who said, let's create an award that focuses on somebody new, and that's the Scholar Award. And that idea came out of the decision-making of selection. And the idea was it's somebody who doesn't have, as Sue and Paul did, over 10, 15 years of connection to the community and the work they were doing. But interestingly, had never worked together, the two of them, in a project like this. So OVCR funded that Scholar Award and continues to, and we are so thankful to Janice Bloom for her continuing support of this. Ed Award has been from that office, who's one of our real talents in this area, has been involved all the time in this process. And so it has really made us a stronger opportunity to reach out to two stages sort of work in the community. And all I will say is, if you want to be inspired, if you haven't already looked at the awardees on these, look on the webpage at the trip.iupui.edu and look at the projects they've engaged in. They range so widely. They have been so innovative in the work they do. And I'm really pleased that some of the previous winners are here with us today. I won't embarrass them too much by pointing out that their projects are incredibly interesting to look at, but also have moved our community in ways that we just simply didn't anticipate. And I'll give you one simple example. That first project I mentioned, Invisible Indianapolis, if you've been in Indianapolis for the last 2 years, you've heard some controversy about the new rebuilding of the Beltway inside Indianapolis, right around downtown. That controversy has been shaped by Invisible Indianapolis because the language of displacement, the language about the freeways and what it did to the neighborhoods has been, shall we say, spread much wider by all the work that Invisible Indianapolis has done. And there is some hope that the next discussion about the next generation of redoing the freeways will take that more into account. How do we create a neighborhood and keep a neighborhood, reclaim the neighborhood? So that's longer than I expected, but I truly want you to take a look at that. And I want to thank each and every one of you who are here today looking at these opportunities for the work you're doing and you're hoping to do, because it is one of the greatest, I think, achievements of our campus is really good, important work that also is connected to our community and makes a difference in our community. Because I always remembered as a chancellor that the reason the campus exists as a campus, there were schools here, they were not connected. That's an understatement. They were not connected. And frankly, I think they were clearly focused on what they could do for the community. But the reason we exist is because Dick Lugar made a wonderful, beautiful speech about can't have a great city without a great university. And as someone reminded me just last week, the next sentence almost nobody ever talks about. And the next sentence is, and the way we're going to create that university is we're going to take all the property of Indiana University and Purdue University and combine them in a new independent university that will help us achieve greatness. Let's just say that the two universities had one meeting to agree to partnership and to transfer property and to create IUPUI. And Dick Lugar deserves the credit for, with his colleagues, stimulating the seed that has become a campus that is recognized nationally and internationally is an urban university committed to advancing community. So thanks for being here, but more importantly, thanks for doing the work.
Well, thank you, Chancellor Emeritus Bantz, for those words of welcome and setting the stage, and for putting your spirit and energy into making this possible way back when you stepped down and agreed to create this award. And thank you for reminding us that this is possible because of the generosity of funders and donors, both off and on campus, and that both of these awards, as you mentioned, are supported by many folks, including the Center for Translating Research into Practice, the Office of the Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, the Office of Community Engagement, and of course, the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. So without that support, this wouldn't be possible. And I think folks here get a sense of the great opportunity and the commitment the campus is making toward this community engaged opportunity. And you gave us a sense of what this is about. So in a big high level sense, the Community Fellowship was intended to support and advance an established community engaged researcher to advance their project to the next level, as you said, and there's $40,000 and a match, and we'll get into the details of what this means. And it's open to faculty, a faculty member who is working on a collaborative team that addresses a pressing community issue in central Indiana. And the deadline application for this is not until February 28th, so you have plenty of time to think about this and put together a well thought out application. And Teresa Bennett will walk us through that process in just a little bit. Then, as you heard, the Community Scholar Award was generously created, and it was a brainstorm of Simon Atkinson, and it has still been supported by the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. And this would be intended for an emerging community engaged researcher to advance their project to the next level. And there's $25,000 to support this. And again, it's open to an IUPUI faculty member who's working with a collaborative team. And we'll talk about what that means for addressing some sort of issue in central Indiana. Dr. Bantz mentioned a couple of our past awardees, and we're going to just do a speed dating thing. Nuri McLucas, our amazing assistant, already put into the chat the link, and I encourage you to go there and visit this more directly. But in 2016, our fellows were Susan Hyatt and Paul Mullins. You heard a little bit about their project. The Scholar Award went to Richard Holden, and Dr. Bantz mentioned what that project was. Every year we've had you'll see that these are just different projects. That's one of the beauties of this whole award process, is we're finding different folks. So we had Dr. Filippelli in 2017 working on getting the lead out, and the Scholar Award went to Carolyn Gentle-Gennedy, who's doing amazing work with one of our local school corporations to work with kids, keeping them out of the prison pipeline. And then in 2018, our fellows were Wanda Thrusten and Barbara Pierce, another school approach, but they've done some great work and have been able to do amazing things after. You have to read more about what they've done. And the scholar that year was Christina Santamaria Graf, who was working with family as faculty, right? Bringing in the lived experience of families into the work that goes on around meeting goals and helping educate people about what that work looks like. In 2019, our fellows were Kim Saxton and Charlotte Westerhouse Renfro, who were a very timely project working on women and leadership. And that project has taken some very interesting turns. At first they thought, no, this has gone away and it's over, but no, it keeps on living, and they're doing amazing work in the community. And the 2019 fellow was Elizabeth Nelson. And there's an interesting story behind this. She wasn't sure she should even apply, and it turned out this became the fellowship project that year, where she's working with women in prison and telling their story and helping them become scholars and writing about what that means to help inform how we handle that population.
Steve, can I interrupt you for 1 sec?
Yeah.
No, if you could just go back. The Charlotte and Kim were the scholars that year.
You're right.
I just wanted to clarify for everyone.
Yes, because that's an error in there. Thank you for catching that. As I'm reading, I'm like, that's not right. So the 2020 fellows were David Craig and Pamela Napier, and they're working on what they call the new HIP Public, which is that Healthy Indiana plan, the Medicaid plan, and how to get that out, how to get people knowing about that and involved and at a very community grassroots level. And the scholar then that year was Jessica Lee, who was working with the Burmese population and a very interesting strength-based participatory action project to look at resilience and protective factors in that population. Now, our 2021 fellow team is Dr. Leslie Etienne and Tambra Jackson, and they're looking at what they call the summer of service and a lifetime of commitment, developing the Freedom School interns as community engaged scholars. And they're still working on their project. We're learning more about what they're doing. It's very exciting and interesting. And the Scholar Award was awarded to Victoria Garcia Wilburn and Devin Hensel. And they're looking at a very timely topic around COVID, understanding cravings and triggers in adolescents attending a recovery school. So lots of important work going on. So this just gives you a sense of the wide variety. We have scholars coming from all different schools and programs on campus with very differing ideas. But the key component that you'll hear over and over is about the community partnership and the community engagement and how we involve not only the faculty and the community, but students and how that all fits in together. So we're gonna move on and spend the majority of our time talking about the nitty-gritty of this process. So the application, the criteria, the requirements, the details, the timelines, what happens with all this, and once the awardees are done and working on it, and what are the resources available to you to do this application, but also then if you're awarded, what happens. And I'm gonna stop sharing and let Teresa Bennett take over, and what she's gonna do is pull up the website where the link is that walks through all this information and explain it to you in very eloquent details. So Teresa, take it on. You're on mute though, you have to unmute.
Sorry everyone, when I went to share screen, the function controls moved. I'm on a new computer, so apologies for that. But what I was saying when I was on mute is that's a high bar, so I hope I can meet it. Well, thank you all very much for being here and for your interest in applying for one of these awards. I, like all of my colleagues, have been involved in this awards program now since the beginning, and it is, I have to say, the work you do is amazing, and it's gratifying to me to just simply be on the sidelines watching and cheering. And so thank you very much for, as Charles already said, for what you do, but also what you're going to do, what we know you're going to do through this program. So hopefully you've already been on the website, and if you haven't, that's okay. We're going to walk you through it, not too slow, but give you some information that you can read in more detail when you do get to this to the site. So we've already talked a little bit about the background and the reasoning and the goals for this award. I think that one thing I will pause on is to say that it is important to our team, to Charles and to the reviewers ultimately, that we focus on work in and with the community. You'll hear us talk about this again and again. The idea behind your research proposal should really have the heart of the community. And so whatever your research is, you're looking at a need, you're looking at an interest, you're looking at, it's not always a problem. It's sometimes enhancing something that's already great, but it's with that local eye. It may have a larger impact. The impact may go beyond the state even, but we're really working in this community. And that you're able to translate that research into solutions that ultimately improve your constituent group's lives. That you offer students an innovative and distinctive experience as part of a research team. It should probably say there that you offer the community partner a distinctive experience as a full member of the research team, and that you foster an engaged and welcoming campus. You will be able to see, I hope that my screen will follow me if I hit this PDF. Will it? Everyone, I guess, can let me know. Did it follow to the form? Oh, good. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. All right, so you'll be able to take a look at the form in advance. And one of the hints and tips that we'll give you is we suggest that you start with this form and create a document, perhaps a Word document, that you can cut and paste from into our application form. It will follow you, the browser. If you use the same browser each time, it will save, but we're not guaranteeing anything. And so we want to make sure that you're successful and that you don't have to use this. Charles always laughs when I say it's not as hard as doing your taxes, but there are a lot of details. And so you're going to want to be sure that you have the information ready in advance. And I just got a note that my internet is unstable. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, you did freeze a bit, but you're okay. Carry on.
All right. So these are obviously the demographics. We will ask you to make several uploads into this when you ultimately do the application. They'll include your headshot, your vita, information on your co-investigator, if there is one. And then you get into the important meat of the questions. And there are word counts for these. That's another reason to perhaps do it outside and bring it in. So there's not too much editing for you when you get here. And so the questions, as you can see, they really focus on we want to know a little bit about your interest in the community. And of course, your research and the community issue at the core of your research for this particular project. How you intend to evaluate and demonstrate the success of your research. And then this is important to us too, to talk about the team, how they will collaborate, how you brought them together, how each member of the team is important to that team. We also talk about the strength of, and Charles and Steve both focused on the importance of the community partnership. And if applying for the Fellow Award, our expectation is that you have a deep connection in the community with either a partner, a group of partners, a community of partners, but in some way there's some ongoing work there. If you're applying for the Scholar Award, then it may not be as deep, but you have an established partnership. You're not just inviting them to the party on the first day. So that you're ready to take something to another level, that you've already been doing some kind of work, and you're inviting that partner to be part of this new work. Here's a little bit more. We want to know about sustaining the partnership. If it is possible, and we hope the kind of work that you're doing does yield this, then how might this go on after? What is your expectation for staying involved with that partner or partners? And then ultimately, if there is an outcome, a solution, sort of a new definition, a new way to think about something, how are you going to implement that? How will the community know? It's wonderful to have articles and publications and conference presentations. Those are all fantastic. And you can talk about those in the question below, but we really also want to know, how is the community going to be informed and how will they benefit from the information? And then we'll ask you to talk a little bit about your timeline, how this will be implemented. This goes to the fact that the awards start on July 1 and end on June 30 of the following year. So July 1 of 2022 through June 30 of 2023. And then we'll ask you to provide a narrative on your budget, but we also will have a form that you will fill in, a budget form, and upload as well. And then last but not least, we are going to ask for a community partner, at least 2 community partners, to write a letter of support. And what we've done, instead of the traditional, you go out and get a letter and upload it into the form, what we're going to do is have you give us that community partner's information. And we have a Qualtrics form that we'll ask them to complete, that asks questions similar, not the same, but in some ways similar to the questions above, so that we get a sense of how involved they are and how much they're able to bring to this partnership. And then we'll ask for a dean or a chair referral reference as well. And that one will be a traditional letter. So we'll reach out to them again and we'll say, you've been a faculty member has put you as a reference for their proposal, and would you write a letter of reference? I mentioned a lot of these here, but we do have a detailed budget that you'll fill in and upload, and we have the timeline that you'll fill in and upload. So let me see now. Like I said, it doesn't always follow. Am I back on the main screen? Okay, very good. All right, Steve already talked about this. The applications are open now, and they close February 28th. There is one more information session coming, should you want to come again, or just encourage one of your colleagues. Really quickly, because I think it's just important to say more than once, is that to take a look at this page, because it's not only where you access the application, but it's really our policies and procedures as well. And so we've tried to be as specific and detailed as we can be, but we don't always answer everyone's question. So you're always free to contact us. But as mentioned, there are two awards, the Fellowship Award and the Scholar Award. And there are expectations for who can be the applicant for each award. And so we've talked a little bit about here, the fellowship. I don't want to beat this to death, so you can read for yourself that the expectation is a deep, ongoing level of research in the community. The Bantz Fellow applicant and in this particular environment will have to be, you need to be a faculty member, and we put some very specific information around that. Who is it's a tenure track, a lecturer position, a tenured person. So if and I get this question, I'm going to answer it in advance, and we'll answer it again if you want to ask any other questions. But sometimes we'll get a question about, well, I'm not that. I'm a visiting fellow. I'm X. If that's the case, you may not apply as the applicant, but you can be a member of the team. So even if it's your research idea, then perhaps you can find a colleague who's working in that area as well that you can bring to this. The Bantz Scholar Award is something that's intended. You may even be piloting something, testing something, exploring something. So the expectation is that it's not quite as deep in the community, but it's just as connected in the community. So once again, you'll need to look at all the criteria for that. Here you'll see the eligibility criteria that I was stumbling through because I hadn't come to it yet. But you have to, in order to apply as the fellow or scholar applicant, then you need to be tenured, tenure track, clinical faculty, or a lecturer on any of the IUPUI campuses. Eligibility, you can see for yourself that we've got information here about the team as well. And so we strongly encourage you to have students as members of your team. You may have a co-PI, you may have multiple faculty involved. You will certainly need to have a community partner, but it is really important to reviewers when they see that students are meaningful members of the team as well. And I think some of this we've talked over. This is just a reminder about several of the things we've already walked through. It may be important, it will be important for you to understand both how you can use the funding and how you cannot use the funding. And we are always happy to answer questions or take a preview of your budget or any way that we can help you. The other thing, and this is where I'll turn this over to my colleague, Alicia, is that in addition to the $40,000 or $25,000 awards, we also have a strong partnership with OVCR. And so the awardees have the opportunity to also apply for release time for research funds which is another up to $10,000 that you can use. And that would be an opportunity for you to perhaps use some of the funds in a different way that frees them up if you know that you can use the release time. And then I think, Steve, it's just a real quick conversation about the review process. Is that helpful?
Well, before you move there, back up, I'm going to anticipate there are questions about the match, which I'm not sure we talked about.
I'm sorry, I did not talk about the match. So yeah, the expectation is that you will have at least 20%, equivalent of 20% from another source. So you can still be awarded the full 40,000, but you can do the math on this. You'll need to show up with some funds, perhaps from your school. It can be from an external source. It can be, I've been asked this several times, can it be from research I'm already doing, a grant I already have? Only if that funding can then be used directly for this proposal, for this project. Can you do that? But there's no reason, if you have something that that allows you to move it, or this research is already happening and you're using our funds to continue that research or leverage, then you might be able to use that as match. You can use your own university salary as match if your dean approves for you to take that time away. So there are other things that you can do, but yeah, the match is very important to the proposal process. And then after February 28th, we go to work. And so we have a large team. It changes each year in number and persons because it depends on how many proposals we receive. But we have a large pool of persons who volunteer their time to review these proposals. They're reviewed by your colleagues, so faculty members, past awardees, and outside persons. So we also have external partners who agree to review the awards. And so it's a two-part process. There's a screening part and then a conversation and final judging part. And then you're then notified in probably around April with a letter from the chancellor to your dean and to you. And then as we've already said, the funding would go into the account you create for this award. It needs to be a distinct account for this award, and it would go in on July 1st. Have I missed anything, Steve? Or anyone? Actually, I don't know if we're going to hold questions for later, but anything else that I can add to this?
Well, I think I'll just add that although we can only award 2, we can do 1 fellowship, 1 scholar award. We also are very sensitive to the offering suggestions about other resources to the other applications, because often it's a very difficult choice. There's so many great ideas. And so we do as the best job that we can. And that's why we're grateful to have the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research with us in this partnership, because there's lots of other potential ideas, and we want to be as supportive as we can to everybody in advancing this work, even though we can only offer 1 award in each category. So Alicia, now we're going to turn to you and let you talk about the resources. And I have some slides. Do you want me to just pull those up and then you can tell me what to do? Okay, so I'll do that and introduce Alicia Gayheimer, who I hope you know from the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. She's an amazing colleague of ours, and she's going to talk about what resources are available through that office. So welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chancellor Bantz. Thanks, Teresa. Let me first, if I can, talk a little bit about the RTR part of this fabulous program. If and when you are awarded, the office will let me know, and then I will reach out to you with information about the release time for research grants. So I'll be sending you application form and more information. And then if we are going to fund your RTR award, similar to what the other awards are, I'll ask you to get with your fiscal person and create an account, and we'll transfer those funds to you. The release time is for just that. So your department, school needs to be on board with allowing us to help you buy out time to do research on this project. So that's something that you might want to look into ahead of time to let them know, hey, when I get this award, I'm also going to apply for release time. Is that going to be a problem? So give them a little heads up on that. We have our normal Rtr Award that we do every year in February anyway, so you may be familiar with that. So this will be on top of that. And again, I will let you know when I get the information on who's been awarded, what you need to do with us, okay? And
Alicia,
contact me anytime about that.
Well, and Alicia, we should add that it's not required that the awardees receive, apply for RTR, but it's certainly an opportunity, and you will help walk them through that, so that just so they understand.
Yeah, great, thank you. Well, yes, I do see a lot of familiar faces on here today, and I hope most of you are familiar with our office. You hopefully are getting our Research Enterprise newsletter, and it comes out monthly. This is the primary resource that we have to put information out to folks. All of the full-time faculty, I believe, are on here, and if you're not getting it, let me know. We spotlight individual faculty research, centers and institutes, anything else going on, folks that have gotten large external awards. This is also where we advertise our events. OVCR, we do have our own calendar on the main IUPUI calendar. You can always go to that calendar and look for us, or if you put in research as one of the terms, you can search by that and find out a lot of things going on campus that have to do with research. If you go to our webpage, which I think is on the next slide, go ahead, Steve. All of the links to our internal funding is on our index page. Our page links to the main IU research page, but we'd heard from our faculty that they still was having trouble finding our office and some of the things we offer from the main calendar, main website. So we were able to do this index page. And again, a lot of the things I just talked about, you can find on the web here. Links to everything you need to know from research administration, research compliance, and all the things that we offer here in research development. Go ahead, Steve, the next one. And if you haven't heard about our Scholars at IU faculty profiles in the last couple of years, let me introduce you to this. Hopefully a lot of you are aware of Pivot. That's the tool that we use to find external funding. Pivot has always had faculty profiles, but I'm the first to admit they were not that good. And then the last couple of years, they've stepped up their profile game. And so we now have a site for all of our faculty, full-time faculty profiles. The site is completely public. That was the thing before with Pivot, it was all behind the firewall. So this is a public tool that we're promoting for, number one, all the faculty to find each other. We have never had the ability for the faculty to look for folks on different IU campuses, and we now have that. Now, I will say to you, bear with me, we're still getting this system up and running, but we are encouraging all the faculty to take ownership of their profile. Please reach out to me. If you're not in Pivot with a current funding alert, let's do that. And then we'll also look at your profile. So a lot of information on here is pulled from your department webpage, and some of the other external links. You may have a Google Scholar page or an ORCID account. Those kind of things we can link as well to help auto-populate as much as possible. And then folks like myself and my colleagues around the system are also working behind the scenes to load some things on your profile. So we use this for many different things: recruiting new faculty, recruiting our grad students. I use this system to find peer reviewers for my internal grants. And, you know, we're really pushing this for a place for the community to go. I don't even know who's at IUPUI that might help me, who I might want to work with. Where would I even start? So this is one of the things that scholars at IU can help with again. So let me know if you need help with your profile or finding funding or any of the information on our webpage, our internal grants and such. Plug for our Empower grant. The deadline is next Friday, December 10th. That's our mentoring program for junior faculty. And anything else you might need help with, you know where to find us. Just reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. So that gives you a taste, if you're not familiar, and I hope that you are, with the amazing resources from the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. And I can personally attest to Alicia's amazing work and willingness to sit down and talk about how to get into these resources. She helped me set up my own Pivot account, which has been amazing. It's a great resource. And to connect to all these other possibilities. She didn't mention everything that the office does. And I think you'll appreciate the great focus on research development to support faculty and staff and students on our campus to advance this kind of work. So before we leap into a period of questions and discussion, we did want to just take a minute to let you know about another award that is available that is open right now also for nomination/application. And that's the Bantz Petronio Translating Research into Practice, or Rtr Award, which was established, it's been some years back, in recognition of Dr. Petronio's amazing observation about our campus being very translational. And she and Charles established this award to recognize outstanding translational research on our campus. And that application is also online. I'm happy to talk with you about that if you have questions. It comes with a $1,000 award. We do ask you to do a couple things, and Dr. Malpome is on the call today, and he's the current awardee, and so he could tell you more about that too if you had questions. But let's now have some discussion. This is our chance to stop sharing and open it up a little bit. We have a couple of our current or past awardees. I saw David Craig, Pam Napier, and Victoria Garcia Wilburn here today, who may want to take a moment to just talk about their experience or share their insights with you as you're thinking about what questions you'd like to share. And we'll certainly open this up for some discussion. So would any of you like to share something first before we have questions? And if you have a question, we'll ask that you use that raise your hand feature so we know that you want to say something. But David, Pam, Victoria, anything that you'd share?
I can go first briefly. I just think this is a fantastic opportunity to showcase the time that you have been spending with your community partner. Oftentimes we undersell ourselves with our relationships, with our development, with our collaborations. And this is a time to really show how much you have been working towards this award. And so don't minimize that. Talk about your relationship, talk about how it's grown, talk about how it has impacted the community already and how this generous award can supplement what you're doing. So that's my advice. And also, my second piece of advice would be to make sure you don't lose the rigor. I think that's also very important to recognize that community engaged work is a methodological approach, and you have ways of detailing that maybe others would not. So please focus on the rigor as well. And again, it's just kind of surreal to be on the other side this year. I tried twice before. So if you don't receive this award this time around, keep trying.
Thank you for those comments. I think those are spot on. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll share something too.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Victoria, because that's spot on. I completely agree with everything you said. And I would say too, one of the things that was really helpful for David and I is, you know, the kind of shifts and adjustments that happen when you're doing community engaged work, like things change. And, you know, especially with us, you know, in the pandemic, we had some things that we had to shift or we had to alter. And so to be okay with that when that happens, and, you know, Teresa and Stephen, like you both were so helpful in understanding and working with us if we had to shift funds a certain way or change something in the middle of the project just because of the nature of the work. So I think that's inevitable and that will happen in this kind of work, and that, you know, the office and Teresa, like you were so supportive with David and I when that had to happen. So just know that it's okay, and it can and will, and that you still have support all along the way.
Thank you, Pam.
I'll toss in one final thought, which is I love particularly how Victoria put it, that this is a chance to kind of put a spotlight on the relationships you've been working on for a long time in the community. It can also be an opportunity to build or work on relationships on campus. And I, you know, it doesn't have to be a cross-campus collaboration, but I think it's helpful, partly because this work goes more smoothly when you can bring different skill sets to bear, and that can help troubleshoot some of these difficulties that arise along the way. And one possible thought to consider, Pamela and I were able to coordinate 2 classes so that our students collaborated across different disciplinary areas. And that was an interesting experience for us. So that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't just have to be a discrete course. It could be 2 courses working together.
Absolutely. And at 2 different levels. So we had graduates and undergraduates working together across multiple courses. So yeah, I'd throw that in there too. Thanks, David.
Thank you all for sharing those comments, because I think you highlight the important pieces of this opportunity. Again, you focused on the community piece, the engagement there, the involvement of students, but also the amazing opportunity for flexibility and creativity in what we can produce and accomplish. So now we'll open it up to anybody else that's with us that maybe has questions or wants further clarification. Any question is appropriate. So please turn on your camera so we can see you, and raise your hand, or at least unmute so I can see that you're interested in asking something or making a comment. This is your chance.
Don't make us call on you.
Well, it would seem unbelievable that we have answered every potential question in our efforts to share information, but maybe we did. Maybe we did, Teresa, especially you.
Well, I'll go ahead, and while you're thinking about questions, Victoria reminded me of something important that I probably should have said before, and that is we provide, if you're not successful this time, we provide a lot of information and feedback from the reviewers so that you can take a look at it. We'll talk with you again, and we'll also, if you're interested, we'll assign you a mentor from our review team or our past awardees, so that if you then decide to apply again, you're come armed with all that information, as well as the experience of having already gone through the process before. And the other thing I think is important about that is that I guess I've been around the university. I know I've been around the university a long time. And one thing I know for certain is everything in its time. And so what you're working on right now may not be the award, I guess, winner, but we don't think of it that way. What you're working on right now, you'll continue to work on. And it may be that in the next round, or because of something else happening in our community, or what's changing in central Indiana, that becomes a really important thing that you can then achieve the award in a future date. So I think Steve already said it, the process is challenging. The reviewers work hard, and I want to say, I'm trying to remember how many applications we had last time. There were quite a few, and we would like to give out just exactly that many awards, but because we can't, we do everything we can to support you. And so we give you that feedback. We encourage you to apply again. We give you a mentor if you want it. And then we also give you a lot of information about other places on campus that you can apply for awards that we think are a match to what you're working on. So we want everyone to be successful. And I think that's a big part of this. The Bantz Award is a community. And so we also ask you to join with us in presenting what you're working on. And so you'll see your colleagues around talking about their work as well. So we really see this as a very supportive community of researchers, and we're just continuing to build it. all the time.
And I'll mention that I really appreciated Victoria's encouragement of sharing the story about your community relationship and not feeling like you should hold back on that. That is a hugely important piece to this. And I like that frame to talk about, you know, the value of this and how it is, how it's developed, and how you will be making this even bigger and better with the work that you're doing. That is the spirit of our campus. And so we should talk about it. And I know Charles and Sandra have often talked about how this campus is really modest, and we're not always good about sharing our successes and the things that we're doing. And so that's just another way, is to talk about the great work that we are doing and how we are partnering with others, whether it's the community, it's the students, how we involve them. And what I'm always amazed about is that people come to our campus, whether it's faculty, it's students, or even those community connections, because they know that's our spirit, and that's what we do, that we come together to partner, to explore, discover, and to make things better. And that's what it's all about. So do you have any questions? Any comments? I want to share one more slide, which should not stop you from sharing questions, but just to make sure that you are aware of some resources. And that would be, if you have questions about either of these awards, please contact me. Probably your best person to contact about the nitty-gritty and the application is going to be Teresa, and she's happy to take your phone call or your email. And then again, if you need more information about the resources from the Office of the Vice Chancellor of Research, you can contact Etta or Alicia Gayheimer. And here's our contact information, which is, by the way, very handily listed on that link to the application on the main page there. So we just want to make sure that you're aware that you can reach out to us anytime. We're happy to help you, as Teresa said, throughout this process, because we want you to, it's not a guessing game. It's very clear about what we're looking for. And that makes it easier for the whole review process if it's all in one place. So any final questions or comments from you at this time?
All right. That means there are going to be, how many of us are there? 10 of you, I think, 10 amazing proposals coming through, and I look forward to working with you on them.
Well, we thank everybody for joining us today to share this information. As Teresa said, we have one more session coming in January. If you want to come back, you're welcome to listen to this again if that refreshes you, or to encourage other people to come. We just want to make sure everybody has all the information that they need. And thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Alicia. And of course, thank you, Dr. Bantz, for spearheading this again, for having the brainstorm to make this possible, and for helping us reach out to our community of donors and supporters and sharing back the amazing information from the outcomes of all the work that happens at IUPUI. And at the moment then, we'll wish everybody a great end of the semester and a wonderful holiday season, and good luck on those applications. This has been recorded, and I know that Nuri, our amazing assistant, will be reaching back out to you. This will probably end up on our YouTube channel. If for some reason you want to go back and listen to it again, it'll be available. But otherwise, have a great day.